Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're back with episode 6, full strength yet again. We got Abdullah back, we got Davison, we got Dany, we got Liam. We're back for more. Episode 6. Liam was
rubbing.
And so we're just gonna, normally we kick this off with a chat, but now we're gonna actually send this one straight to Who's Ballin'.
Who is Ballin'?
All right. Welcome to Who's Ballin' Part 3, I believe. Yes. You know the drill by now, so let's just get right into it. Abdullah, you said you'd start.
Yes. There's a lot of great sports moments this weekend. But what shut out to me, and most of the Big Ten, was how Nebraska's been playing. And I've been seeing a lot of, I think last night on the post-game show, they had John Ballin on there, which was Michigan's old coach, and he said that the Nebraska team reminded him of his national championship game team. So, and first time that I didn't say something biased, that didn't come from me. So, but I have a player from that game. It's Juwan Gary. He absolutely balled out of his mind. It seemed like he could not miss a shot yesterday. And he's not really the most offensive-minded guy. He's more of like the defensive anchor, rebounder. So for him to, give a spark, especially after that really low-scoring first half, was just exactly what Nebraska needed and put us at a great spot. We have 20 wins for the first time in forever. So,
yeah, I'll go next because I'm on the kind of the same tune here. I got 2, and one of them is going to be patting myself on the back a little bit. It's my first one's going to be the PBA faithful. Nebraska's 17-1 at home, and some people think it's, playing in your home building. Some people think it's the home crowd. I'm one of the people that thinks it's the home crowd. That's also why I think if Nebraska plays in Omaha, they might be on their way to a Sweet 16. But the PBA crowd has been the difference maker and the X factor for the Husker team all season. A school with absolutely zero historical success, and the fans still come out every night. It's sold out. They're going to be top 10 in attendance again this year. Just an awesome place to play. My second one, also Nebraska ball related, will be Jamarcus Lawrence. Before this week, he averaged 4 points, has scored 30 combined in the last 2 games, an average of 15. He is, I believe, 8 for 9 from 3 in the last 2 games after shooting in the 20s and percentile all season. So a big time for Jamarcus Lawrence to start turning it up for Nebraska basketball off the bench.
you know what I attribute that to? Low key, ever since you put him on your story, he's been cooking.
I know, man. He's you should follow me back for that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take third. My staying in the college basketball world, I actually got a coach I want to talk about. I have, coaches, maybe can get a lot of recognition, but they also get a lot of heat. And so who's balling this week is Ohio State interim head coach Jake Diebler. He was thrown.
Super original name.
I think that's back-to-back Deebs, bro.
That's back-to-back Deebs.
Did you say Deebs?
You said Deebs last week.
Hey,
calm on.
Won again.
I'm
He
gonna
won
expand
again.
upon it. I'm gonna
He
expand.
won again.
Okay,
it's
cook,
fine.
cook.
It's fine. He won again.
Yeah.
He's just really balling right now. Davidson probably said a lot of these things. He was thrown onto the sinking ship of Ohio State. Sinking ship, they're 13th, second to last in the Big Ten. Really no hopes at all for anything. And then I don't know where they beat Purdue. And then, yeah, they do get smacked by Minnesota, but they just beat Michigan State, who is one of those top contenders in the Big Ten, heralded as a almost, not all like for certain, but very likely March Madness team. And, he's doing his job, and he's doing it well. Ohio State is absolutely, it's a little too late to turn around your season, but they're showing some signs of luck. I mean, I personally hope he gets the head coaching job next year. I think he will. I don't really mind it for Ohio State that much, but, it's nice to see him and how emotional he gets, leading to his team against some very monumental W's. So, the second week in a row.
To add on to what Nate's saying, he not only has gone 2-1 in his coaching tenure so far. He has 2 quad 1A wins at a place that was tanking. It was tanking. If he can so much as get them to an NIT, he already deserves the job. But he should be solidified if he so much as gets them to an NIT. That'd be a hell of a job. I hope he takes a game off this Thursday night when Nebraska ball comes to town. Now that's gonna happen.
Well, I will say they also did something really just real quick. You say quad 1A wins, true. They also did something that's like proven to be really, really difficult. They won on the road in the Big Ten against a good team in Michigan State.
Well, that's another reason why, like, to go off of what you guys were saying, why he deserves it. But to even like add on to like on the road, he was also down double digits at halftime on the road. And it's not just on the road at any team. It's Michigan State, who has the Spartan fans. They go out because that team is good, and you don't really see Tom Izzo blow games like that. But he coached a master class, and even though it was a game winner and a little bit like crazy, he gave him a game plan that would put him in that position.
All right,
I'll take us up to the NBA. Okay. We'll stay in basketball though. I'm gonna go Jalen Williams. Jalen with an E. Because they got 2 of them boys on that team. But he in the month of February has had his highest points per average all season. But in the past 5 games, he's had 2 30-plus point performances. Both times he shot 50% from 3 and 60% from the field. Bro has truly just been balling. He's had some of the best statistical standpoints all year of his season in the month of February. And I hope he continues building on it. His stars just continue to emerge for this Thunder team. You know, not Gordon Hayward, though. He doesn't count.
All right, Dan. My was Ballin. We're keeping in the NBA. I'm going with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think it's pretty obvious why.
Oh my God!
Back
oh my God!
Back to back Cavs. Who said Cavs?
I did that.
Danny,
I don't remember.
why would you even back to back? What's wrong?
I feel
Yeah, they would never back to work.
Rob.
Well, yeah, 11-4 the last 15 games. They've been shooting lights out, like 50% on average, I believe, in those last 15 games, and that can be attributed to like one guy and one guy only, and that is Donnie Mitchell. He's been the number 1 shooting guard in the league, I'd say, this entire season. And yeah, I think they're going to keep it up come playoff time.
For sure.
My best for the repeat. I'll do my research before the next recording.
Yeah,
I guess a little surprise. I got a little like surprise, like short. You know, they're balling, but can they keep it up? And that is the Milwaukee Bucks, who seem to start figuring their stuff out. After this All-Star break, they have won their last 2 games. They did beat my Timberwolves, and then they did beat the Sixers. I mean, they were supposed to, but it was by a sizable margin. So, you know, maybe they're starting to figure things out. Maybe they just needed that time. Who knows if they can keep going. I hope they don't, because my take would be tanked. But all right. Unless anyone else has got anything else to say, we're going to go ahead.
I just don't like the Bucks because it's like the only way they can possibly win is for Giannis to drop 30 or more, and that's not good basketball. I'm sorry.
There's no team there.
No.
It's just Giannis. Occasionally, Dame drops 30 or 40.
I mean, yeah, Dame kind of...
When they absolutely need to win, it's going to be on Giannis.
Because in the playoffs, he's going to get double teams. He's going to get the best defender. So I just need to see more, but they are balling, so I can't.
If he gets double,
They're
if he gets double, hey, don't diss Brook Lopez though.
Brook Lopez.
He dropped 11 in 32 minutes. I think I'm going to diss him.
Well, I'm saying like
against the Wolves, he could not miss.
Especially if Giannis like gets double, Brook Lopez he can cook up when he needs to.
They have a team. I just
It's just
all I'm saying is we're starting to see it start to work. You know, maybe the beginning of it.
They have a bunch of great players, but I don't know if they really have a great team. Like, I mean, if you want
the chemistry is not really there.
It's not there, and like it kind of reminds me of, maybe not as drastic, but it kind of reminds me of those Nets teams Like they have like a 2-3 superstars or 2 superstars and a couple like really good players, but they're just like it doesn't look like it when they play together. And like I mean with some of those Nets teams, they had some of their best performances when the other guys were out. And that I don't think that's a good sign. They should be having those with the other players. It's just they're just not cohesive. They got to get that shit figured out.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some college basketball. Talk about all the storylines that are happening there. We'll see you there. All right, welcome back. We're full swing into college basketball season. March is approaching day by day, and we keep getting closer and closer to the wonderful March Madness tournament. And so things start to heat up. Questions start to arise, and comparisons and brackets start flying out at you. And so let's just talk about college basketball just in general. Starting off with some of the recent upsets that have happened. Obviously this season, and every season really, upset riddled. So much parity. We've had a lot of Creighton beat UConn, then turned around and got upset themselves. Wake Forest over Duke. Ohio State beating Purdue. I mean, I guess like which upset stood out and like what just stands out about these upsets seemingly more this season?
Yeah. So it's college basketball. There's naturally more upsets in the sport than any other. I think that 2 upsets stood out to me as concerning, and neither of them are Ohio State over Purdue. I'm not concerned about Purdue. But Penn State not only beat Illinois, but had to come back from down 7 with 40 seconds left. We're down 14 in the second half of that game. It was an all-time collapse from Illinois, and it's just something that you don't want to see from a team that many see going to an Elite Eight and at their highest level see as a Final Four team. Illinois, the collapse and the lack of leadership late in that game is concerning to me. If you're looking at a team at Illinois as a team to pick to make a deep run in March. The other one that was concerning to me was the Arizona game against Washington State. College basketball is a sport where it's hard to win on the road. Arizona lost at home, and that's just something that kind of just doesn't happen when you're a good team in college basketball. You win your games at home. I don't know if they have another home loss like in their building, but I know they lost in Vegas to FAU. I mean, that's a much longer trip for FAU than it is Arizona. I'm sure it was almost 100% Arizona fans in Vegas that day. And they continue to lose with home court, home crowd, and I think to me that is a sign of a fraudulent team come March.
I want to add to that a team that wasn't upset, but this game was much closer than I think that it should have been was North Carolina, Miami. North Carolina ended up escaping with a 4-point win, but it was at North Carolina. Miami has been good at home this year, but this past month they've been on a slide. They've been dropping a bunch of games. Miami is statistically much better at home, but this was an away game, and they played this North Carolina team that is ranked, that is number 9th in the country. A lot closer than they should have been. I mean, Miami with the lights out from 3. They shot 47%. North Carolina in their home building shot 34% from 3, and 57% from the line. And then a team that always gets like national hype prior to the tournament every year, but a team that like honestly can make a run every year and is capable of making a run every year. This is concerning. This close to March Madness, it looks like to me that they might be losing some of the steam.
Well, just over a week ago, Miami lost by 30 to Duke at home. Like when your rival is going on the road and beating these guys by 30 and you're struggling with them both times. I think North Carolina barely beat them at Miami too. There's just a bar. You see what other teams do against them, and you probably want to be that good too.
Obviously, playing back like a team that's not very good, like Miami at home, playing them that close, it does pose some concerns. But off of what Davidson said, it's more of a concern to lose at home, especially being a top 10 team, try to solidify a 1 seed potentially. You're just giving. I mean, obviously, as the season goes on, teams get blueprints. They understand how to play people. And really, UNC, I'm not really totally concerned about them because they weren't very good last year. They had a lot of things to work with. So this team, they know how to lose, meaning they've proven that they can be bad and learn from it. So I wouldn't be too concerned, especially coming North Carolina. Like that team, especially like if RJ Davis is going to drop 40, it's insane. But to choose another upset, what stood out to me was the Creighton-UConn game, but not for a different reason. Yes, beating UConn is insane, but they were really hot. They're bound to lose, of course. You know what I mean? And I'm glad they got their loss out now because they've been playing great since. I think it's more just proven that Creighton is just they're not solid enough to stand on in the tournament because they can beat anybody, but then they can go around and lose anybody. And everybody that is like, oh my gosh, Creighton's top 15, they're a great team, I'm going to take them. I don't have that enough confidence in them because if you can beat a team at home like UConn at 20, but then turn around and go to St. John's and lose by 14, it's like I don't know how to feel about you.
My
I think that win wasn't as impressive as it was just because of how they played after, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but my concern about Creighton is you see what happens when the shots aren't falling. Creighton is everybody knows they're dependent on the 3-pointer. They're
streaky. They're streaky.
So when they played UConn, it was they shot the lights out in that building, man. It was just like Nebraska at home against Purdue. Just absolutely could not miss from deep. They go and shot 50%, and they're missing everything. Like it's just they're a streaky team, and I don't think that every single one of those, like, I don't know if you guys ever see those Twitter posts that are like every team that has won national championship has been top 12 in this metric. Every time I see it, I see Creighton in there. I just don't believe that Creighton can win 6 in a row and
that's exactly what I'm
for 6 games. I don't think.
Well, especially in college basketball, you cannot rely on the 3-point to win. You have to have other ways to win when the shots aren't falling. And if you don't, and Creighton in my mind has never been a serious contender. Like they're a higher seed every year. Sometimes they're in the middle. I mean, but there is some hype surrounding them. But they've never been a team in my mind that I'm like, okay, we need to watch out for them. They could make a deep run. And if by some miracle they do make a deep run, you know that they will come up against one of those tougher teams and just get it won't look like a contest.
And for me, like a major red flag for the tournament is the 13 turnovers they had in that last game. Like you can't be like, even when the shots aren't falling, you can't be having that many. You can't be losing the ball, making that many mistakes, because then you have absolutely no chance of like hanging in there. And if they play like that, yeah, they're not gonna make it far.
Just to add anything to this, talking about not specifically one team, but I feel like why college basketball is such an upset-prone sport, especially this season. I'm not saying this is a difference from previous seasons. I maybe don't watch it as much, or like not historically, so I don't have any past metric to compare this to. But one thing I notice now is that the reason that I feel like there's so many upsets, a lot of these upsets, if not like 90% of them, happen on the road. Obviously, this home team is, oh my God, these big dogs are coming in town. We're going to pack the house like we've never packed the house before. And like that very well could have been a thing in the past. But I feel like this season, just because of how many upsets are happening, these teams and these schools and fan bases are seeing, and it seems like almost anyone could beat anyone. Let's, what's that? UConn's coming to town. Let's like pack the place, be loud. The home court advantage seems to be stronger than it has in a long time just because of these upsets, and they keep piling on because of it.
And obviously this is subject.
Go ahead.
Obviously this is subject to change because there's still some significant basketball left. But out of the projected 1 seeds as of right now, there is only one. Okay, because the projected as of right now are Houston, North Carolina, Purdue, and UConn. And I'm really only worried about UConn. Like if I'm another team, UConn, like Purdue again, will make it to the Sweet 16 every year. Maybe
you got bounced round 1.
round one.
year.
I mean, at
Last
the
year.
farthest they'll get to the Elite Eight. I'm not confident in Houston at all. North Carolina, like I'm the jury's out on North Carolina. UConn is the only one seed that I'm like confident in. But are we going to see another tournament where there are no one seeds in the Final Four?
Well, I think the tournament.
I think so.
I think the tournament. Okay, like to bounce off of what Davidson said the last couple of weeks and today, that like college basketball, you're gonna get the most upsets. That's how the sport works. That's why it's awesome. But the tournament like shows championship DNA and teams that have been there. So that's why I'm not totally concerned with North Carolina opposed to like a Purdue or a Houston, because they like, you know what I mean? They know how to win those games. What Davidson said, like what's going to make it interesting is how teams would play in neutral sites. So that's why, like, I mean, he made some good points about Purdue last week. Like, that's where you really got to go, because of course it's going to be harder to play at someone's home because they pack the crowd, like Nate say. Of course it's going to be easier to play at your house because all your friends are there. But when it's how you play when not everybody's around. And I feel like the two teams would be UConn and North Carolina that I'm not worried about. Houston, they have had some good runs, but I think you should throw in North Carolina and don't be too quick to jump the gun on what they can do.
Well, so there's been a consistent. There's a top three and then a bar right now, a huge gap in college basketball. It's Houston, UConn, and Purdue, and then there's a gap, and then that fourth one seed slot has been interchangeable throughout the season. It has been, and there, there's North Carolina talk, there's Tennessee talk. Sometimes you even get like a Marquette or a Kansas even in there, just because of how the season's gone. That fourth slot, it seems like nobody wants it. As soon as you get put in that fourth slot, somebody upsets you. Arizona's been there. Arizona just got beat by Washington State. So to me, I see those top three teams, and it's so hard to predict a national champion in college basketball, and I'm not going to do it. But out of those top three teams, the one I really like right now is Houston, because Houston's doing it on the road just as much as they're doing it at home. I know they went to the Fog and got drilled, but that's what the Fog does to you. They went to a good Baylor team on the road in their brand new building, sellout crowd this weekend, and they beat the doors off the first half. Baylor came back, forced it to overtime, and that's when most teams would fold. That's when Nebraska would fold, is when all that adversity hit. But no, Houston went out and dominated overtime. And I like teams that can win on the road. How they do in March, they can do it anywhere. And so that's why right now, out of those top three teams, I really like Houston.
All right. Well, good talks about upsets, and I think it's really what makes March Madness. I mean, nothing else, no other sport in the world has madness like March does. And so, speaking of March Madness and tournaments, let's move on to the Big Ten tournament, Big Ten men's tournament. There's still some games to be played, obviously, and there's still a lot of fluctuation that could happen, mainly in that back end / like the middle end, where what teams are going to maybe get 1 bye, or can a team jump up to 2 bye, stuff like that. There was a graphic pretty much showing what the Big Ten tournament looks like this week, and with like about 3 or so games left. Obviously, you guys are all looking at it in the script, but do we have any takeaways and any predictions and stuff about the Big Ten tournament, men's tournament, when the games are all said and done?
I think Purdue and Illinois are going to end 1 and 2. I think that's pretty set in stone. But those 3 and 4 slots, a day ago I would have said it's down to Wisconsin, Northwestern, Michigan State, and Nebraska. But now I don't think I can include Michigan State in there anymore. I don't think they can compete for the 3. Maybe they can slide into a 4 if Nebraska or Northwestern slide a little bit, but I just don't see that happening. I think a combination of Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Nebraska are going to fill out those 3 and 4 slots. And what that means is an extra day of legs for your players. People like to say, win 1 or 2 for those bubble teams, like win 1 or 2 in the Big Ten tournament. But if you're a 5 seed Nebraska and you beat Indiana, that's not going to do anything for your tournament resume. So the extra day of rest and getting to that third round for free is huge. And it just means a lot. So what I'm looking at for these final couple weeks is who could slide into those 3 and 4 slots. And for me, might be a bold prediction. I think Wisconsin's going to be the team to drop out.
I was about to say that they play Indiana, Illinois, Rutgers, and Purdue, and 3 of those. I think generally all 4 of those teams have a shot to beat them.
Yeah. And then the final thing I was going to say is when I talk about a Big Ten tournament sleeper, I don't think there's a bigger one than Maryland. They have all the talent, but they're sitting in with a double-digit seed right now because of how they played early in the year. They got off to a really slow start. They went on the road to Rutgers this weekend, absolutely drilled them. I think that a Maryland team that hits its stride at the end of the year could compete to make those semifinals, maybe even the final.
For sure. I feel like this could be my hesitant reaction just based on how many upsets and how much stuff has happened in the Big Ten this year between Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin falling off of a cliff, like all of these things. It seems as in the Big Ten, anybody could be anybody as long as it's at home. Now, obviously, the Big Ten tournament is not at home for most teams, and so it really goes back to the discussion that we were having about the March Madness as a whole, about in a vacuum, can you do it? Can you do it anywhere? And so right now the story's been at home. I'm very interested to see what it's like when nobody's at home. When the stars and the teams on paper really come out and stuff, because
well, they go off of like what Davison said, like Maryland as the dark horse. I think it'd be Minnesota because they are essentially at home, and they have they have some decent wins. They obviously got mollywopped by Juwan Gary himself, but that team is talented, and when they can get playing right, they're pretty hard to beat. And just playing in Minneapolis is going to be that's why I feel like if anybody's going to make a run and surprise some people, it's going to be them.
My problem with the Minnesota thing, and it's obviously it should be any game they play in Minneapolis there, they should have the bigger crowd. But Minnesota's basketball fan base is just not as large. If you see those home games, I mean, I don't think Nathan can maybe attest. I don't think they've sold one out this year.
They haven't sold one out, but it's not the largest arena. So even though that's not a large crowd, it looks full.
Yeah, but that kind of proves my point a little bit. Small arena, they still can't sell it out for a team that's been way better than they've had these last couple of years. I'm not sure that if it was Nebraska and it was in Omaha, you'd see an all red crowd for every single one of those games. But I don't think
you might still see an all red crowd in Minneapolis, bro. They travel.
Yeah, only 6 hours for us.
I'm going.
Man. Only 6 hours, but I don't.
I'm looking at the ticket prices; they're crazy. Yeah, I agree. The thing, okay, speaking as like as a fan of the team, Minnesota, obviously the Big Ten tournament, everyone plays. So it's not like if they start losing, then you get worried about their chances. They have, over just really the last few games, they've had a abysmal schedule. They had to go to Purdue, which I guess the only one of the most recent reassuring thing is they only lost by 8 at Purdue. But then, they had a couple home cheap shots like Ohio State and Rutgers. Then you go to play in PBA, and very few people just walk into PBA.
Not even Caleb Clark just walks into PBA.
Yeah. But then they have at Illinois, and then, a couple, I don't want to say cheap shots because they're in the future. I don't want to be embarrassed. But they host Penn State, Indiana, before closing out at Northwestern. At Illinois, at Northwestern, in your final game slate is not too nice for you and for your seeding chances. Minnesota, likely, unless they upset, probably out of the conversation for March Madness. They're definitely in the NIT conversation, if that even is a conversation that people talk about. But, I guess what I'm saying is that when we talk about on the road or like in a vacuum, even though this would technically be home games for them. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think it's still going to be like Davison said, 50-50 crowd. They don't maybe have the largest crowd. But if any team outside of the top 3 or 4 has even sniffed the possibility of competing on road games, I would think it would be Minnesota, considering some of these closer games they've had against really good home teams. And so, yeah, it's at home. I don't think that's going to be much of a factor, but I still think they're still hungry enough. And, you know, when Juwan Gary is not sunning you, they can compete with almost any team, not saying they can, like, win it all.
I am, to your point, as you said earlier, I am really interested to see how much red you see in Minneapolis. It's the shortest Big Ten tournament like distance for Nebraska in a long time,
And we're good.
And that's true.
Yeah, they got to bring it to Omaha one year, man. That place would be all
crazy.
Oh,
but
You just declare them champs.
one thing. I'm looking at teams' records and stuff, and you know, I've gone too long without being a little bit biased. Is Nebraska in talks of being ranked next week?
if they win both,
I feel like we could be.
I mean, they're receiving votes right now. So, but my thing is, I don't even care. The AP poll is such a joke. It's so bad. USF
It hasn't been good for a long time.
USF cannot make the tournament without winning their conference, and they are ranked 25th right now. Gonzaga, bubble team, ranked 23rd. Arizona State receives 17 votes. They are 14 and 14. It is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen, and it infuriates me every week. And I know it's going to make me mad, and it still makes me mad. So it finds new ways to surprise me every week.
It feels like a team beats a top team and they get ranked, except for us.
I know.
Yeah, I mean the AP poll is just the who won most recently poll, and it's really bad. It's
The thing that
so bad.
The thing that invalidated the AP poll for me was when Wisconsin was in the midst of a 4-game losing streak, and they just would not drop out. They wouldn't drop them out of the rankings. Wisconsin went from like 6 to maybe 13 or 20.
And I think
And so
another small one. Kansas is sitting at 7. Iowa State's sitting at 8. Same record, same conference record. I wish there was a way to decide which one of these teams to be ranked, which should be ranked higher. Oh wait, Iowa State beat Kansas. Like, it's just little things like that where it's like you have the evidence. You have the evidence, AP voters. It's right there.
all right. Well, the final thing we're going to talk about, college basketball, a little bit longer of a segment because it's kind of the thing right now, the thing in the main stage. Recently, y'all saw it on the news.
Oh, let me
Wake
go.
Forest, when Wake Forest upset Duke, there was contact with, I can't say his last name, Filipowski. There was contact with him. He appeared to be hurt, and so now the question's in the air. Should court storming be banned? Should it be moderated? Abdullah, you want to start? Just tell us. What's
So, absolutely not for it to be banned. If you're gonna be a top team, you're gonna win games. Don't be mad when you lose and the team storms the court. But I do agree that it should be moderated because the kids that are storming the court, they aren't very careful. You know what I mean? Especially with opposing players. They're not really, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not careful. We had the Filipowski one, which was actually an injury, and then we had the Caitlin Flop one. Like, absolute, but like, so there has to be some moderation to storming the court. Like, maybe wait till the opposing players get off the court, but that also takes away, it takes away the fun of it. So I feel like if I just don't know how you would do it. Besides, like, you know, asking your fans to be careful, or maybe limit, like, having a section that only these certain amount of people can storm the court instead of having like the whole section or anybody that.
I've seen. I hate to give them credit. I was at that Creighton UConn game, and Creighton did it right. I got on that floor. As much as I hate it, I had to storm the floor with my friends because it's just something you do when you're at one of those games.
Yeah.
But Creighton's security made a wall in front of the UConn bench. That's what they did. They let everybody on. There was absolutely no stopping. They knew that. Like when you know a court storm is brewing, you're not going to be able to keep people off the floor. You're just not. So they made a wall in front of UConn's team and wouldn't allow anybody over there. Everybody got off safely and just let the court storm happen. And I believe that's the way to do it. You just protect the other team. You let them get off safely, and then just let the students get on the floor. And I've seen, I think 2 years ago, I remember watching it on TV, Arkansas beat Kentucky at home. When you know that you're going to lose, John Calipari, they were down like 5 with 2 seconds left. John Calipari sent his entire bench to the locker room. Only the 5 starters that had to be on the floor were on the floor, and they were very close to the tunnel. They just stood near the tunnel. And as soon as that clock went off, they got out. You have to be prepared. Everybody says that the schools have to be prepared. Well, if you know you're going to lose and you know a court storm is going to happen, you need to be prepared too. There's ways that you can prevent your players getting hurt.
Well,
Duke couldn't quite do that because the game wasn't quite over.
Yeah.
And that's when it falls on the schools.
Well, though I just think it's kind of silly to even consider court storming. Obviously, the injury is a big factor, but I feel like the Duke coach sounded a little bit salty that he lost. Like, obviously, you want to storm for sure because you lost. Like you have to give people, like, that's what makes sports. You know what I mean? Those moments.
Yes, absolutely.
And I guarantee you, Duke was bad and they beat a number one. They're good. Like, you know what I mean? It's just situational. The injury sucks, but it doesn't happen often. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So I don't think
I also
that should be.
I also think that like it's kind of late to ban it. Like it's been such like a historic like tradition, and it means so much. Like it's like it's like a huge part of the sport. You can't ban it. It definitely should be moderated, but you can't
Absolutely.
completely like get rid of it.
It's one of those things that makes college basketball different from the NBA. And true college basketball fans don't want college basketball to be the NBA. So you try to keep the two separate. They're different. It's just like college football doesn't want to turn into the NFL with the super conferences that are just going to be AFC and NFC. You need to keep two separate. They're different for reasons, and it's better this way. It's better when the passion of college basketball fans is different than that of the NBA.
Like at the Purdue game, how are you going to expect me to just be like, "Good job, guys"?
Yeah, and then just leave.
Good game.
That's the coolest thing I have been at, like in my Nebraska basketball, the history of my Nebraska basketball fan.
Exactly.
And I wasn't just going to leave the arena. No, I'm going to go freaking celebrate with the players. That's how it's going to happen.
I agree with everything that's been said. You can't ban it, but I do think that it should be moderated to some extent.
Should be more precautions at least.
That's the thing. Like whether I've obviously heard all these good options. Where originally in my head when I first like brainstormed, I was like, oh, what if you PA announce to the fans? What if you're like, okay, hey, wait 10 seconds, and then you guys can storm? That quickly came to me. I was like, oh, you are not holding back this tidal wave of students who half of them are not even there, and and that's just not an option. I really did like that Creighton point you brought up, Abdullah. I feel like that's a very good idea. When it's like, like you're right. There's it's gonna happen, and there's the rare occasions of a buzzer beater or a last second, thing. The truth is that it's on the coaching staff and security to protect their players. But in situations out of their control, it is up to the security of like the arena and the home team, to control it doesn't have to be completely blocked and controlled, but control it to a point where there's just even a chance that those players can get off the court, whatever that means.
Well, the security is the first one on the floor no matter what. Like you can like be surprised by a buzzer beater, but even like it's 6 seconds left, your team's down 1 and has the ball. You as security have one job to be thinking about, okay, if this shot goes in, we know they're coming on the floor. So here's the plan: we're gonna get in front of the other team's bench, and because they're the first ones on the floor, they have first access. They can do that. Like none of these, I hope none of these fans are just trying to injure the players of the other team. So they're not exactly going straight. So you have time to get in front of the other team, is what I'm saying. Even if there is a buzzer beater, as the stadium, as the arena security, you do. So I think that if they just start protecting the other team rather than trying to, in general, keep people off the floor, which is impossible, then you'll never see it again.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've all talked about our points. It's weird because like it's not a common thing, and it just recently happened this season twice, incidental or not, whatever. And so now it's obviously raised in question. Who knows what the NCAA will do? They've done a lot of things, but with that, we're going to move on to Dullah's debate. We've cycled through all the competitors. Abdullah's gotten his first punch with everyone, and now it's time for round two with everyone. First up is Mr. Liam McCann. Hopefully we get another absolute cinematic battle like we did that first episode. So without further ado, it's time for Dullah's debate.
Welcome back to Dullah's debates. It's back. We got a panel of judges now. Last time when it was Liam versus Abdullah, it was just me as the judge, but this time we will have all three judges, or all three people not competing, judging Dullah's debates. My question is up first. Liam and Abdullah. I'll have Abdullah go first on this one. What do you think is the best college basketball conference?
Am I good?
I'll start the timer when you start talking.
All right, sounds good. So I actually really love this question because, like we've been mentioning before on this podcast, there really isn't a best conference when it comes down to the tournament. But if we're going by the quality of basketball and just the overall, like, you know, who's going to be there? You want to put the most teams. Who's putting the most teams in there? You would go Big 12. But in my opinion, it's the Big East. Okay, a casual basketball fan may not realize that the Big East Conference has nearly averaged 5 teams in the NCAA tournament over the last 10 seasons. That's a lot. They just added on the defending champs and the UConn Huskies who are looking to repeat again. And outside of that, they have a numerous amounts of national championships between all the teams. You know, they played Big 12 teams in the title games. They played Big 10 teams in the tournament games. And just that quality of basketball, and the quality of teams in that conference. Also, I feel like they play the most conference games out of most of the quad 1 teams or conferences. So by playing those top 15, top 20 teams, top 5 teams over and over again, you get a better chance.
Liam, your rebuttal. Go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, like you said it in your introduction, that Big 12, like if you're going purely off of production, I don't think you can look anywhere else other than production. In terms of quad 1 wins, both conferences have the most teams on that leaderboard. They both have 3 in the top 10. So, I mean, that's really up for grabs. But I think if you're looking at teams that are going to make it, if we're looking at teams right now at which conference as of this year is better, then I don't think you can go anywhere other than the Big 12. Houston, which granted in the past has struggled in the actual tournament, but if we're going off the regular season right now, they have a better roster. Their roster is older. They're more veterans on that team. I think that they are a serious team for this tournament. I mean, they have been one of the best teams in the country, and UConn just suffered a pretty big loss to Creighton a couple weeks ago, and Creighton then proceeded to get beaten pretty badly by St. John's. I believe it was at home. I don't know, it was on the road. I just think if you want to go purely off of like rankings, records,
Time. I didn't know I was muted. Sorry.
Okay, so as we get into your actual debate now, I'd like to plant a seed in your guys' mind. Liam mentioned okay. Liam mentioned at the end of his monologue that how the Big East he was talking about how the Big East was devouring itself with UConn being the best team, then losing to Creighton, and then Creighton losing to St. John's. I want to know if you guys think that is a testament to a good conference that has many good teams, or to a bad conference that doesn't have a top team. I'll let Abdullah start again. Could
you repeat that again? I kind of didn't. They all was kind of.
So Liam had mentioned how UConn lost to Creighton, and then Creighton lost to St. John's, and he mentioned how it was a bad thing for the Big East. I want to know if that exact devouring of each other in the Big East, if that is a testament to the amount of good teams that they have in their conference, or if it's a bad thing, saying that they don't really have a strong top team, or if they're not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
So you guys, I'll let Abdullah get the first word, but then you guys have free reign to talk.
So those games happen in the conference that I'm talking about, but as I said before, they play each other the most, and most of the teams are really solid. So outside of DePaul, but most of the teams are really solid. So you're just getting those repetitions against solid teams, and when it comes to the tournament, that really shows. The Big 12, they only put the top teams against the top teams only a couple times. You don't get really the deepness of it, and I feel like that repetition and that just the going at each other multiple times a year really attests to how much you can beat someone. I mean, this year we had the Big 12 versus Big 10, Big East versus Big 12 little battle thing they had in the season. And yes, Kansas beat UConn, but most of the Big East teams beat the Big 12 teams. Only the top Big 12 teams were the ones that came out on top. So you can have quality top teams, but if you're looking at the deepness and the quality of a conference, the Big East wins, because most of those teams are going at the top beasts and the quality teams the most. So any other team that they play seems easier because they've been playing the UConn, the Creighton, the solid teams.
I'm gonna go off of that. Like you mentioned, sure, depth is important in a conference, but what is depth going to get you in March? What is that going to do for you? The importance is those top teams. And you said it.
The defending champs are from the Big East. The defending champs.
Exactly. And the defending champion lost to Kansas, who was arguably, outside of Houston, one of the better teams in the Big 12. Of the top teams in the Big 12 and the top teams in the Big East, outside of UConn, I don't think there's much of a really debate there. You can make a case for Creighton. You can make a case for Marquette. But Houston, Iowa State, and Kansas have all dominated this year. All three teams have not lost a single game at home. And home wins have not been necessarily hard to come by this year, but Seton Hall, Marquette, Creighton all have one or multiple losses at home. And it's just, I think we really need to pay attention. And you talk about depth, the Big 12 has, 8 teams that have 19 or more wins? And they have more teams, but if you want to go proportionately, I still think that would be greater than the Big East. I just really think I think they're more solid. I think the best team in their conference is better than the Big East best team. I think the worst team in their conference is better than the Big East worst team. I mean, kind of got screwed because DePaul is pretty shit.
Yeah.
But West Virginia is significantly better than DePaul. And it's just
and you can make that good point, but like I said before, when these two conferences went at each other, the Big East proved their depth. Yes, now that the season has progressed on, you're getting the 19-win teams, but I just feel like, especially with how the tournament plays out, I'm gonna pull up the past. I know we want to talk about now, but the past
they put that depth at the beginning of the season.
You can't.
Time.
They've gotten better. Well, God.
The jury will disregard his last statement.
Are we gonna let them know round by round?
No, at the end.
No, don't tell us. Don't tell us.
We're gonna leave it to the end, but we gotta make it suspenseful. Danny, you are up next. Your question is, go ahead and ask away.
All right. So, the MLB spring trading is starting. There's been some crazy offseason moves. With those moves, who do you think is your favorite to win it all? I have zero MLB experience. I think I probably have the least compared to all of you guys. So try to convince me, a complete noob, why you are right.
Okay.
Liam,
You understand?
Yeah.
Liam, you can start this one.
Okay. Well, you want to talk about most complete rosters and rosters that have gotten stronger over the offseason, that have had that World Series experience and actually won it. I'm going the Braves. And as much as that pains me, because they are in division, that's why I went first, baby. Because they are in division with my Mets. Like, and I witnessed last season when the Braves were like a first round, second round exit, they killed the Mets. And the Mets were like a 70-win team. They weren't one of the worst. They weren't among the worst in the league. They still won 74, 75 games, but it was never a contest. And the Braves murdered their division, and they've only gotten stronger. The last offseason, prior to the season, they brought in Sean Murphy. This season, they brought in Chris Sale, which really hurts because the rich just get richer. They have the most complete infield. They have the best outfield. They have a young rising star in Jared Kelnick. It's just, and they have that veteran experience. They have that experience.
all right. Abdullah?
So I do really like the Braves, but yes, they've had World Series experiences, but they've also had a history of, not really being the best playoff team. They lost last year, was it last year that they lost to the Phillies, or was it 2 years ago?
Both years.
Both years to the Phillies. So since their World Series win, they've kind of been in that really good team, just can't get over the hump. I call them the Celtics. My team that I like is just always the favorite to go to the World Series out of the AL is the Astros. That team has been complete for years. They have been competing at the highest level for as long as I could, for almost 5 straight years. They've almost it's been insane of how well they could play in the playoffs. Yes, they're getting a little bit older, but they're adding the pieces that they need. I'll bring up more of the transactions later because I don't have the most amount of time, but if we're going to go off of who can get to the playoffs and who can win there, it's the Astros.
All right. Liam, you can start this one again.
Okay. So the Astros did have one big acquisition in the offseason, and that was Josh Hader, and that is a big signing. But their downfall a season ago was, and at least the postseason was that offense. And in the postseason, the offense is what failed them, and they didn't really do anything to reinforce that. They're sticking with the same guys. And the issue with that is, that it has worked in the past, but the teams, in your division are only getting stronger. The Mariners are improving year in, year out. I think they will finally be a postseason team this year. And the Rangers just won the World Series, and they're not going anywhere. That roster had not super old. When you put in comparison to other rosters, the Rangers are only going to get stronger, and the Astros haven't really done anything significant to make that leap to stay with them. But the Braves, on the other hand, are bringing in bona fide stars. The last year, the All-Star team was entirely Braves for the NL, full of Braves. And the reason that I am really sticking with my guns here on this one is because that I have seen a lot of Braves games over the years, because they are within the division in the NL East, and they just, unlike the Astros, where I feel like they've kind of plateaued, and they've been able to get there. And after that win against the Phillies, they've kind of regressed.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say regressed. Obviously they weren't they weren't their usual selves, but you were saying that they didn't, really, they can't keep up with the other teams like the Mariners and stuff like that. Well, I would disagree on that. So last year they had, they've always been a really good hitting team. Their problem was they weren't the most deep pitching team. They had the top names like Verlander, but then after that there wasn't a lot of people. And like you mentioned, they added some pitchers. They added Hader. That just makes things, that makes that team a lot deeper. It's not anything to write home about like Ohtani, but it's something that takes your middle of the pack pitching, that is one of your deepest, one of your problems, and that's taking your middle of the pack pitching, adding another bona fide star, like you said. to that staff, to a team that's already has the blueprint to win the series, stealing signs or not. They just have a winning culture at Houston, and by fixing a problem like that, it can do wonders. It's kind of like the Chiefs. You have a good offense, bad defense. You fix the defense. You know what I mean?
The only issue with that is that the guy that they did bring in is a closer. So he is going to pitch one inning like every 4 days. It's not going to be a guy who's going to be able to contribute for you every game. But
you could argue, but when you're in those close games, you or need to solidify a win, you need a good closer. You know what I mean?
You do, but you also, and that is true. But what do you do if one day you use them and then the next day you are in a similar position and you're not going to take that risk to put him out 2-3 days in a row? Because that's where we see shit happen.
And that's why
Time.
Oh, I was about to cook.
That was
good. That's really good first 2 rounds.
I was about to cook. Fuck.
all right. Now we move on to the which is my question. Obviously, we're in a era of basketball. Right now, it's basketball season, baby. But let's reminisce about football a little bit longer, specifically college football. Everyone's excited about it, especially as a Nebraska fan. We're pumped. The Kool-Aid is on high this year. And so, my question is, with the new members to the Big Ten, the getting rid of divisions, it's a new landscape. You have the favorites to win the Big Ten in college football. Who is an underdog? And convince us why they're an underdog and why they have the strongest case to compete with those top dogs for the Big Ten title. Abdullah, you will start.
As much as I want to say that Nebraska's our dark horse and they're going to make a stand, I just feel like the team is too young right now. So I'm not going to say them. I'm going to say a team that has proven to be a really good team, but it's just the way, the people that they play in the division that they're in. My team that I feel like has the best shot to win the Big Ten out of their previous years is Penn State. They have been playing, they've always been solid, but they have the problem of being worse than Michigan. They have the problem of being worse than Ohio State. I think this year's their best shot, especially bringing in, a top 15 recruiting class as opposed to, which is a better recruiting class than Michigan, but just bringing in those better players, they're going to start solidifying themselves. They have the most solid coaching staff. Nothing really changed. Ohio State, they got a new OC. Michigan, they're losing Harbaugh. That team is now has, they're the most solid team out of those three, I would say, because I'm bringing up Ohio State and Michigan because those are the leading runners, but I think it's Penn State.
All right. Liam, your answer?
Yeah. You're gonna have to rock with me on this one. Abdullah avoided the bias, but I am not gonna be able to do that on this one. You want to talk about dark horse? Obviously, they're not gonna be a front runner. They're never gonna be a front runner. But dark horse candidate, a team that has proven that they can get to the Big Ten championship, are the Iowa Hawkeyes. I know. Bear with me here. So year in, year out, playing some of the top offenses in the country, they continue to have that top 5 defense. That defense that proves they can play with anybody. The issue has been the offense, and the offense is still not going to be anything better than mediocre this year. And as much as I hope that it would be, I know that it's not. I think that it will be better than the dog shit that it was this year, but there's not, you can't really go any worse than what they were this year. I think they can only go from there. New offense coordinator brought in a big transfer in Caden Proctor. A little bit of tampering, but and they have proven that they can get to that game with pretty much bare bones on offense. And I think they're a team for.
I can't comment right now because on the chance that I might, ruin one of Abdullah's points. Yeah. But I just hope that
it's set.
I hope that Abdullah mentions it.
No, I'm ready.
If not,
I think we're on the same page.
All right, Abdullah, you're starting, so just get it out, man.
The question, Liam, was who's the dark horse to contend for the Big Ten championship? You can't choose a team that has been contending. Okay, we know Iowa.
I don't think they have.
That's not a dark. That's not a dark.
They have not been contending.
They just went last year. They just went last year.
Pause the time.
It's not contender to win it. It's contender to be there, to compete.
Oh, he's right. But I believe that I was outside of the top 5 in odds, so he would count here.
They are not within the top 5.
Here's the thing, yeah,
Just because-
that's my
Just
point.
because they've been a contender in years past, especially with the teams that have arrived that look better on paper, they have been pushed down.
Here's the
which
thing.
is fair. But
Right now, they're not. My question is, there are probably a couple favorites, being Ohio State and Michigan, as there is every year. And Oregon, I forgot.
Oregon.
My fault. Oregon. You're right. Even though they have been this year, they are.
Outside of those 3 teams, any take for a dark horse?
It's not have been. It's this season.
no, I understand that, but you pause the time on me.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
let's
Keep
go.
going, Abdullah.
Yeah, okay. You could with adding in the people that are dark. They're considered a dark horse, like you guys were saying. But the top 5 defense versus, I can't give them what you want me to give them because I you know what I mean. There is the proof that they in the old Big Ten that they were able to contend because the Big Ten wasn't as strong, and still with the added teams, it's not totally as strong. So I can't really give Iowa over opposed to Penn State, and especially head to head. I just I can't see them in the same light.
Head to head at Beaver Stadium a year ago, outside of Michigan, nobody was beating Penn State. They looked amazing at home, but when they went on the road, it got shaky. It really got shaky in those road
And that's
games.
what I think
And-
changes for them because of that.
I don't think that as long as James Franklin is your head coach, I don't think that changes. You can't expect a culture like that to change. And before you turn that on to Kirk Ferentz has been there for 20 plus years, has been to several conference championship games, has proven that he can get to that stage year in, year out. Penn State hasn't been able to get there. And just if you can point to Iowa's losses in the past few, but Penn State has not been able to get out of the threshold of Michigan and Ohio State. And with no divisions, that's fine. I mean, they might be able to escape, but then they're going to run into teams like Washington and Oregon that are going to give them just as big of a run as an Ohio State.
And why I am so strong on Penn State is because, in my opinion, looking at it, I feel like Ohio State's going to be playing the tougher schedule as opposed to Iowa. I feel like it's hard to.
Well, and then exactly that's what you have to take into account when getting to that championship game. Iowa's schedule has been much more difficult in years past, and they're probably going to have a better defense next year because they are returning almost every single starter. Phil Parker's still there. That defense is intact. Nothing's really going to change there.
And that's fair,
The
but
question marks is on the offense.
The problem with Iowa has been their offense against scoring offense, or the defense, their offense against hard defenses, and adding some Pac-12 teams like Oregon and Washington, who had great defenses last year. I don't think Iowa's offense is on par.
Washington's defense was not very good.
And then they were able to beat some teams, and that could have been opposed to offenses. But you don't see Iowa's offense winning games, and I don't think that changes. It's all going to depend on their defense. And you're playing a lot more. You're playing a lot more talented offensive teams this year with this new Big Ten. So I can't.
There's your time. Oh, baby. Maybe we should have got one. We should have maybe. Cool them off. I know. Good take.
Passed out.
So obviously, now we're doing a judge panel, different from just an individual judge. We're getting 3 opinions instead of just one, to get really a full, range of knowledge on maybe a certain sport, or just a unbiased answer, I guess. So now we each picked our winner for each round, and we're going to now reveal those winners, us 3, per round, and obviously whoever wins 2 out of the 3 rounds wins, at least. And so let's see who's going to take it away. Let's just start from question number 1 about what is the best college basketball conference. Davis and Danny, you guys ready with your answers?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to go one by one or at the same time?
Same time. All right. The winner of round 1 is... Ooh. Dullah taking round 1.
I didn't even know you had the pictures. I thought you were just gonna say it.
Yeah,
cool.
I just coordinated them with the group chat saying, "Oh,
Oh, okay.
I think it's more. I think it's
Yeah,
more
that's
exciting.
cool. That's cool. That's cool.
All right, so Dullah takes round 1, and now we're gonna move on to round 2, which was the MLB. Yeah, that's right, MLB. And so the winner of round 2 in 3, 2, 1, unanimous.
You got done dirty there because I knew that was gonna be your.
He also knows a lot more. So like I tried my best.
You did try your best. I will say that one was the closest in my opinion. Well,
Yeah,
now call
that
it
was just one for me.
All right. Well, it's 1-1, guys. It doesn't get much better than this. The winner of round 3 and the winner of this round 5 of Dullah's debates is in 3, 2, 1. Oh, Abdullah sneaks it out.
I'd like to thank all the fans.
You got a victory speech for your second victory?
My victory speech is Liam is hard to beat, man.
Pause.
So, well, he's hard to beat in one way.
He is.
No, but
his bro.
I don't know. It was fun. I'm glad I bounced back after last week's shenanigans. But we'll move on.
Shenanigans.
Move on.
All right. Well, this is obviously round 1.
Damn.
The
Damn.
judge.
Take my hand.
I'm hanging.
Oh, my bad.
Take my hand.
This is round 1 of the judge panel. We're gonna continue. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, what
I'm a big fan of it.
debate. We're gonna take a quick break here, and then Abdullah and Danny got some more UFC to talk about when we return.
Viva la Mexico. UFC Mexico just happened. It was very interesting. I have some takeaways, but you know, I just want to talk about the main and the co-main event and what they necessarily mean for the respective divisions. Yeah. Danny, you want to start with anything? Do you have anything that you saw that was interesting?
I mean, I didn't even watch the fights. I'm not gonna lie, but one thing that I was looking forward to seeing was the Raul Rosas fight. So I'm a little sad about that. But
yeah, we're gonna have to run that back next week and see it. But I'm gonna start off with the co-main event. We had it between Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega. Ortega was coming off of he left the division for a little bit. He was on a little bit of a losing streak. He obviously had one of the most impressive title fights against Volkanovski, and he ended up losing because he couldn't finish it off. So after losing that and going through some rough stuff, he returns and he fights Rodriguez here in this co-main. And Rodriguez is on a high. He just had the title shot, and he's one of the most prolific strikers in the division. And the champion is a striker. So honestly, if you want this fight, he's in a more stylistic matchup that he wants, you know? Striker versus striker. He wants to fight that Topuria because that's his best shot at winning the belt. But Ortega, he took a massive beating in round 1. He almost got knocked out immediately. But he somehow survived it. He showed his toughness. And then he went to his patented ground game where he's a submission specialist, and he was able to submit one of the most dangerous fighters in the featherweight division. So I think he just needs his props.
And yeah, he barely landed anything. I think he landed half the strikes.
Yeah.
Roughly. But yeah, it was the 3 takedowns that got it for him, I'd say.
And
just like you can't defend, like Rodriguez just had no chance defending that ground game.
No, because that's Rodriguez's main thing. He's really bad on the ground, and that's why he lost to Volk, because Volk was able to slam him and knock him down. But that ended up being his demise because he doesn't really look at his ground game so seriously.
I'm excited to see what Ortega does, like in the future, what he has next.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a title shot, but it's definitely at least it's moving up.
He's on the road. He's on the road to one.
Yes. And then the co-main was between, honestly, one of my favorite divisions because of the flyweights. They just always just beat the shit out of each other. And that's exactly what we got here. If you want to look at the stats, how much strikes were thrown,
Jeez, I just pulled those up.
it was unbelievable.
145 to 112, significant.
Yeah, so this fight was between Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval. And this was definitely the top contending shot to fight Pantoja for the belt. Both these fighters already lost. Moreno lost his belt to Pantoja, and then Royval lost his title chance. So they both wanted to get back. And this fight delivered, but it was also a bit disappointing because there was times where big shots were landed, but they weren't.
Zero
They have
knockdowns.
the power behind them. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I guess that's kind of what you get. Like you'll get those in the flyweight division. You don't really. There'll be those fights where there's just crazy volume, but nothing behind the.
I mean, Royval threw 556 strikes, and there was 0 knockdowns in the fight. It was just very, very. It was a close one. A lot of people don't agree with who won, but just that volume and just how, if you're gonna be at home in Mexico for Moreno and have that type of performance, and where like you feel like you couldn't defend a single shot, you're bound to lose. So I don't necessarily disagree with how the fight ended up.
I find it surprising that like Royval hit only 32% of his strikes.
Yeah,
But he still managed to win. I don't like. What did you see that was the like winning factor for him?
I would say that it was definitely just how the fatigue factor. When it got towards the end of the fight, he was landing so much more. All those misses or all those makes were essentially the last 2 rounds of the fight. It's because Moreno's defense went down. It's because of the damage. Moreno was more beat up than Royval. It was just what culminated over. If you look at the stats, landing 28% of your significant strikes is not good, and getting taken down more is not good. But the way that you landed those strikes, and especially how he landed them in the end of the fight, which matters the most, that's what won him the fight. But I do think he's going to get whopped by Pantoja.
Either of them would.
But yeah, that's really what I had for UFC Mexico. Besides, we want to see Rosas fight.
Yeah, and I wonder how that fight would have gone if Amir would have fought. You think he would have pulled off the win?
That's a great question. I don't know if Albazi would have pulled it off. He's 17-1. He has power, and if Royval was able to land those power shots on Moreno, then I don't think Moreno was able to stand up to those Albazi shots. But Moreno's Moreno, so he's one of the most toughest fighters. So that would have been really fun, especially since we got this fight before. So I definitely missed to reschedule that. That should be the next move for the flight weeks.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a fight night next weekend, but it doesn't really hold that much ground as much as this one did. There's not really fights that mean much besides,
What's the fight you're looking forward to the most?
Probably the Mokaev fight because he's moving up the ranks. He wants to be the next Russian champ. So I'm excited for that.
That's gonna be a really good fight. Flyweight's always fun to watch.
Yeah, that's one of the fighters that I think could eventually, finally take the belt from someone like Pantoja. But outside of that,
fight,
yeah. Go ahead.
I'd say their Nurmagomedov fight would be. I think that's pretty obvious. Like he's 16-0, and I just want to see what he can do. And the main event's been pretty fun. It's always fun to watch the big boys. Fight.
That one's not lasting past round 2. And for Nurmagomedov, he's just newly ranked. He's number 13 in the bantamweight, so this would be very nice for him to move up the ranks. Maybe get like a top 10, top bottom like 5, like under Cejudo, like one of those higher single digit rankings, so that he can eventually move into like the top 10, top 5, and then eventually get that belt from O'Malley. So he's undefeated. He's really,
Have you seen his opponent fight yet? I've really heard of it.
His opponent's not really the greatest fighter of all time. He definitely has a great record, but I feel like just the dominance of his wrestling, Nurmagomedov, all those guys have it from Dagestan. So
yeah,
this is just a win to prove that he can continue fighting at this high of a level.
All right, yeah. There's not too much to cover. I mean, there's 299, but we'll save that. And yeah, we'll take a break and head over to the Another 3.
All right. we're back with hot or not. The scoreboard is really heating up now. Points are being thrown out on the board. Points are being gained like it's nothing. Davison sitting first with 12. Liam's got 5. Duel's got 4. Me, Danny, 3-2. Yusuf will forever have his 1 point. He can hold on to that. But we're back for another week. We got more hot takes. Liam, Dullah, myself, and Danny have some that are still up in the air, but yeah, we should have a pretty solid understanding of where we sit next week. And so Davison, as first place, you just want to kick us off?
Yeah. My prediction is that Nebraska ball will make the Big Ten semis in the tournament for their first time in the history of their program.
Oh, I'll say
Nebraska has been here. I'll spit some more knowledge. Nebraska, in its however many years since joining the Big Ten, I believe this might be the 14th or 13th year. They have had 11 out of those 13 years. They have been a bottom 4 finish in the regular season. The other 2, they got the double bye. Both those years, they have lost their first round game. Obviously, they've never made the semis from the Wednesday games. So Nebraska, historically bad in the Big Ten tournament. Depending on where they finish, it could be a win 1 or win 2 situation, but I believe that they can get to that semifinal.
That's my thing right now. Is like I want to know where they finish, because if they're that 4 seed,
well, so that's kind of part of my prediction. You can interpret it however you want, but I'm saying that they are good enough to be a top 4 team in the Big Ten when it comes to it, and that maybe includes winning these last 3 at the end of the regular season.
Not 3.
I don't think that's crazy far fetched given the recent stress that they've been on. So I'll go 3.
And I got such a huge lead. I don't even need the points. I don't even need the points.
All right, buddy.
Oh, so one.
So 1.
I'm here to
for
1.
1. Here 1.
Don't be dicks. Don't be dicks. I'm gonna go 3 because we're good. Like,
I'll go 3.
Yeah, I would go 0 because we're gonna win the national championship.
oh, okay, buddy.
All right, I'll take a second here. I also like college basketball. It seems like this year in college basketball, for a hot take, if you don't know what your hot take is coming into the episode, take a shot at an upset in college basketball, and you have a pretty good chance. That's what I'm doing. And so I am picking a college basketball game out of the Big 12 and tight conference and stuff like that. And so this Saturday, newly recrowned Houston as number 1 travels to Oklahoma, who are currently 19-8, travels to Oklahoma and plays them. And I think that, no number 1 team, I think Oklahoma upsets Houston on Saturday.
I give it a 4. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's college basketball, so I can't get it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Danny, what do you say?
I said 4.
All right, we got 4.
Oh, he said Bo?
Can I get a fall?
Yeah.
Can I get a fall?
All right, Liam.
First of all, I would like to take this moment to reflect on that. I got fucked from my Caitlin Clark take a week ago. I remember some people saying, "You get a 10." That's not going to happen. I think I remember that's just a dumbass take. No. A funny thing happened
last week?
2 days later.
I don't recall that.
A funny thing happened 2 days later when number 14 Indiana played number 4 Iowa.
Are you holding
and beat them by double digits, and Caitlin Clark had 24 points. I think I should get 10 points because I remember someone saying, "Can we give that a 10?" But I'll take 5 too. And
all right, buddy. So what's your hot take?
Kirk Cousins leaves the Vikings in free agency. Not return to Minnesota.
1. Next.
That's a 2. 2 because
Let's do it 2.
it's like each day that goes by.
I've already discussed this on last week's win over Abdullah and Dullah's debates.
I know. I'm still. Fuck, man. I'm still recovering from my midlife crisis that debate round gave me about my team. And I think about it. I see the post. I see everything. It becomes more likely by the day, I think. So 2. Abdullah, Dany, what do you got from that one for Liam's take?
I can back that. I'll go 2.
All right. 2 it is. And of course, Liam still has his take about which one?
No, that
one?
takes
Oh, that's right. It did die.
Yeah, that
Oh,
takes
okay.
you over.
Never mind.
Because fucking Danny had to say that they're going to win 7 in a row. Like, what are we thinking, dude?
Well, all right.
Talking about.
Abdullah,
I just said something.
Danny, you want to go next?
Yeah.
Danny?
I'll go next. I'm gonna say that the Blue Jays are gonna go 1 for 2 or 1 and 2 out of their last 3 games. And I mean, yeah, it's not like anything crazy. I mean, I don't see them. They're not gonna beat Marquette. Villanova's already beaten them, and Seton Hall. I mean, they've beaten UConn. They only lost by 3 to Creighton. So I think Creighton could lose all 3 of these games. I'm saying they're gonna go 1 for 3 or 1 out of 3.
I'll go 3 here because I think they're gonna beat Marquette.
They do also play Seton Hall and Marquette out. But I don't think that's.
I think that Seton Hall game at home is a lock, and I personally think they go Marquette, but they could easily lose that. I'll go 3.
Yeah. All right. 3 for Danny. Abdullah, cap it off.
I feel like every single week we got someone that predicts a win streak for a team, or says
Danny.
win a certain amount of game. I'm gonna pull it, Danny. Looking at the Knicks schedule, and controversial calls or not.
Okay.
I've been looking at them. They play the Pelicans, the Warriors, the Cavs, the Hawks.
Easy work.
We've got a lot of decent teams to bad teams. So I'm gonna say that the Knicks are gonna win 8 out of their next 10.
Oh, baby. So, Pelicans.
That's a win right there. That's an L for the Knicks right there.
Okay, buddy. Cavs, Hawks, Magic. Good waters. Sixers.
I don't think that they beat the Warriors. I think in Cleveland, I don't know that they win that game. And then it just comes down to can any other team, like can the Pelicans, the Magic, the Hawks, the Sixers play them twice? If they just take one, then it's over.
Here's the thing.
4.
I like 4 because also, when are the Knicks going to...
Are you including the Nuggets in this?
I mean, it's their. You said their next 10.
No, it stopped. It stopped right
Yes.
before the Nuggets.
Oh, convenient.
Convenient.
Wait, what was it? What was it? 8 out of the next 10?
Yeah, the next 10.
I'm gonna go 5.
I'm going to say 4. I'm going to say 4 just because, it realistically could happen. My problem with the Knicks is they could realistically do that healthy. I don't follow injury reports and all that stuff.
If the Nuggets were included in
Seems
that,
like they
I'd
have-
say it's a 5 for sure. But
It seems like they have not been healthy in a long time. And they almost just lost to the Pistons. If it was
Yep, they've
foul
lost 3 out of
the
their
foul
last,
that should have been
3 out of their
called.
last 5.
If the foul that should have been called was called, they could have, I'm not saying they would have, they could have very well lost to the Pistons. So I'm still staying 4 though because Jalen Brunson is in. And so
I'll say 4 as well. I mean, back to back against the Sixers.
4.
I feel like they're bound to split one of those. And then the Cavs and my Pelicans.
Call it
That's 3 other.
They're going to beat the Pet though. All right. Well,
What's my final score?
you got 4. You got a 4.
How many points is my Knicks take worth? I forgot.
The one.
Well, I don't know that it
We'll have to-
matters anymore. Because that's
You're not going to get them.
Well, I'm just wondering.
My Bulls one might happen, boys.
No, it's still possible. It's still possible.
Both of your guys' takes for that one.
You said second place, Danny?
I said within second, and they're 2 games away from second.
They're 3. I'm pretty sure.
No,
Here's the
The
thing:
Knicks have 35 wins. The Bucks and the Cavs both have 37.
the Cavs are
They're
three
games. They're 3 games out of the Cavs. They're 2 games behind the Bucks.
and then the thing of the Bulls, they are 5 games.
But they're also only 2 games ahead of the Sixers.
Oh, I said this. I said
3
the
ahead of
six.
the Heat, Pacers, and Magic.
I'm pretty sure you said.
Yeah, you said 6.
I thought I
said
said
6.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, they very well, yeah. Even then, they're 4.5 out of the 8. There seems to be a very clear line after the Magic of mediocrity in the East. All right, well, we all got our takes out. We'll be monitoring them as they happen. We'll see. I think the luck for the group has run out with Liam's take from last week. I think
and Dave's hitting twice.
yeah. Watson,
All right, what do you guys think mine is? What do you guys think is lucky about mine? Come on now.
I'm just him. Yeah, I am.
3 for 4. I'm 3 for 4. I'm shooting 75%. Come on, man.
is shooting 35%.
Well,
all right. That'll do it for episode number 6. All I'm saying, obviously you should always watch every episode. Next episode might be a special one. Maybe. Might be a little bit special potential. Let's just say I will not be in this room next week. And so we might have something in store, but we'll see what we got. But yeah, all I'm saying is you should stay tuned. We're gonna keep going. The posting will get a little bit better, trust me. It won't be on.
It's only the start. It's only the start.
That's my fault.
We just get
But-
started.
Yeah, and so stick with us, subscribe, follow the Spotify, the Instagram, and the TikTok, and that'll do it for episode number 6. See you later.
Peace up.